welcome everybody to the Military Women's Memorial. We are so excited to have you here today. I'm Phyllis Wilson, the president of the Military Women's Memorial, and I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, so this is very important to me personally. I just want to tell you, this is our first ever Women, Peace, and Security Forum, but certainly not our last. Judged on the turnout, the interest in the topic, we will continue to host these on a quarterly basis for the foreseeable future. Now, we certainly cannot do this without the support of our partners. So without friends like PenFed and the team headed by James Skank and Rebecca Edmondson, with Jessica Yan and Emma Lehner from AllTru, and Lila Koastani, who leads Promote Leadership. The Military Women's Memorial Mission, for 25 years, let me tell you, we have been here to honor and tell the stories of the military women who have helped to defend not only the United States, but other nations. And it's important that we share our sisters in service stories as well. We have been here, as I said, for almost exactly 25 years since we opened our doors originally, to honor now 3 million American women that have helped to defend the United States of America. But we also, within our database, which has over 300,000 stories, we encourage women that served in other nations, militaries, but in support of and alongside of the United States, to also place their stories. So we have women from World War II that served in other services, other countries' militaries, and their stories are in our database. So we're looking forward to helping to add the FTP stories into our database as well. I'm not going to take a lot of time. One, we started a few minutes short, and being military, we love to stay on time. But you're not here to hear me, you're here to hear these folks. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Jessica Yan to the podium.
That'd be great, slip on the ramp up. I've done that before under a helicopter, which you'll hear in a minute, but hi everyone, my name's Jess. I founded AllTru with an incredible team and incredible volunteers who you see before you about a year ago. We were a 2-week-old nonprofit, and we held our first panel similar to this at West Point Military Academy. And what we're really trying to do is highlight compelling role models and stories of incredible people that are humble professionals and wouldn't do it for themselves. So in front of you, again, you have some incredible role models, and we thank everyone for being here today and for those that made this possible in this incredible space that we have with the Military Women's Memorial. Before diving into the panel, I just want to give you a feel for what we're talking about today, the cultural support team, the Female Tactical Platoon members, as well as who's in this room. And the only way I know how to do that is in typical military fashion. So there I was. It was 2013. I had seen a flyer for this thing called Cultural Support Team, and I said, don't really know what this is, but it looks like from the pictures it might allow me to go outside the wire. It might allow me to engage with the local population. So I said, I'm in. So there I was, assessment and selection, made it through, did a few months of training at U.S. Army Special Operations Command Special Warfare Center, and served with, again, there's people in this room that conducted that training for this group of women as we became the first women purposefully assessed, selected, trained, and then deployed alongside elite special operations units. Now make no mistake, while the cultural support team had a significant impact on influencing the lifting of the combat arms ban, there have been women far before us, women whose faces you'll see in this hall as you walk out in the gallery later this evening. Another woman, Shannon Kent, who we're dedicating our ceremony to this afternoon, who did this in the shadows. But CST was an important part of that, and it emphasized the role of a woman in the prevention, management, and resolution of conflict. And that's what the Women, Peace, and Security Act stands for. And so that's why we're here today. And without further ado, I will leave it to Kimberly, who's going to tell a little bit more about our panelists and allow them to introduce themselves. So thank you.
All right, good afternoon, or, yeah, is it afternoon, noon? Okay, yeah, or 2 o'clock. Okay, it's good afternoon. My name is Major Kimberly Brucci, and I am very pleased to moderate this panel of incredible women and man. All right, so Jess alluded to this, so thank you so much for your comments. The cultural support mission was really diverse. We were charged with the challenges of both kinetic, so direct action, like pew pew, shooty shoot type missions, and governance, nation building type units. And we have that representation on this panel today. I was a cultural support specialist with the first all-volunteer group back in 2011 to 2012. I conducted over 60 combat patrols with 3rd Special Forces Group through villages in southern Afghanistan, like Cockraz, Arghandab, Sholikot. And now I'm currently a Space Force officer serving as the Concepts Flight Commander for Space Delta 10 at the Air Force Academy. So shout out to Delta 10 if you're out there watching this. You should have signal, your Space Force. What I would like to do now is have each panelist go down the line and briefly introduce yourselves. And when, it's going to be brief, but I'll tell you, it's not going to do justice to their incredible careers. So for a better picture of the details of their accomplishments, please refer to the program. So please, George, if you could kick it off for us.
George Frazier retired just over a year ago, 32 years service, most of that in special operations. And the male on the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Roll Tide. All right, just checking the pulse there. All right, retired First Sergeant Catherine Harris. I did 28 years, and now I'm a professional traveler, and I teach yoga.
I'm Captain Mary Kolars. I had the honor of leading the CST program for 5 years. I'm significantly younger than the two right here. I've got 12 years in, and absolute highlight of my career was getting to work with the Female Tactical Platoon, our Afghan sister unit, who basically did everything and more than our cultural support team did. I'll turn it over.
Hi everyone, my name is Mahmoud. I was Female Tactical Platoon Commander in Afghanistan, and now I work for Immigrant Arc as the Afghan Civil Project Manager, and I'm still working on my English.
Okay, that has to happen to me every now and then. Hi everyone, my name is Pashtana Durrani. I'm a social and political rights activist from Afghanistan. I am the executive director for Learn Afghanistan, and probably the only civilian on this panel.
Well, thank you so much for introducing yourselves, and I'm gonna throw a curveball out there to some folks in the audience. So if you were a CST or an FTP, just raise your hand. I won't make you stand. All right, so you can, yeah, let's give them a round of applause. So, this is an incredible panel. Every single person who raised their hand out there in the audience has just as rich an incredible story. We are going to do our best to do justice for all of you out there. You can let us know how we do. So before we delve into perhaps the more like philosophical discussions of our collective service through the lens of women, peace, and security, we can't walk away from these impressive backgrounds without knowing a little bit more about your experiences. So we're gonna go down the line, and please share maybe your most memorable experience, whether it was training, whether it was a mission. George, once again, please kick us off.
Most memorable, well, I'll skip the combat stories and the aforementioned, that kind of stuff, and I'll tell a quick story about that pertains to what this is about, which is females in the military. So there's this commander named Nowruz Ahmed. I'm pronouncing that completely wrong, by the way. And so after the fall of Raqqa, when we were coming down from Ashadadi to Mayadin to finish up ISIS, we stopped in a town called Markada to meet the Syrian counterparts. At that point, I was just a task force sergeant major, so I'm, coordination kind of guy. Nothing, no big job. But we went into this typical meeting, lots of tea and lots of talking, and Naruz was a pretty stout lady in terms of the things that she had done. Like she was, as a soldier for the YPJ, she was in the last few blocks of Kobani throwing hand grenades at ISIS. So she was a fighter, and at this point she had gotten herself to general, and she was in charge of the campaign. And it bent people's minds sometimes, the way the YPG and the YPJ did things, where they had a male and a female, and they were equal, and the female could be in charge and make plans. So we went into this meeting, and she laid out, we did all the prerequisite, drink tea and do stuff like that, and then she got the map out and said, okay, here's where we're at, here's where we're going. I'm gonna launch this here, I'm gonna do this there, and laid out the plan. The funny part was, on the way out, the fellows that were in there with me, they said some stuff that, I won't repeat exactly how the conversation went, but it boiled down to, who's this lady and where's the guy in charge? And I said, well, she's the lady in charge. You guys have no idea who you're talking about, so you probably should educate yourself. Let me do that for you. And I gave him her background, who she was, and why she was in charge, and the fact that, just because she's a female does not mean she can't be in charge. In this situation, she was. And so they were impressed with who she was, and after that, after a little bit of jolting, we got on with her plan. But she was the female general in charge of that whole part of the campaign. And sometimes you got to let people wrap their minds around what's going on. It's not always as easy as you think it is. And so that was just one of those leadership education moments. And so that was just a fun story.
Thank you. So there I was in Afghanistan. We moved our mission to day missions. We're doing a 2-for-1. We're doing 2 locations. And as they were briefing, the major said, hey, we got to make sure we move at a high rate of giddy up because we literally have our 5th point of contact. He didn't say that word. He said it. Hanging out, so I don't want us to get injured. So we're coming back from our 2nd mission, and we're going uphill, and the guys are hauling butt. And I got to watch because I'm a time hack. And we're like, all right, we're hovering at a 730-mile pace. All right, cool, I got this all day. We down to a 715. All right. Pulse check, 7. Okay, I can't breathe, but we're going. 6:30, I turn around, look at my FSP, Sarah, who's back there, and I'm like, as long as she's hanging in there, I'm hanging in there. We made it back to the compound and everything, and one of the rangers, he turned around, he said, oh my God, CST, I was waiting to have to, wait for you guys. I said, oh no, I promise you, you will never have to wait for a CST or FSP. And in that moment, we gained their trust, and I will always remember that. And Sarah, her and I just locked eyes like, we just cannot stop, we gotta keep going, and we made it, and I'll never forget that. I love you, Sarah.
For me, my most memorable experience, I had already done 1 deployment to Afghanistan and then found out I was doing a 2nd one and I was going to have female tactical platoon members with me. Wasn't really sure what to think. I'd seen a lot of courage, a lot of bravery on my first trip on the battlefield, and I showed up one of the first days to the training location. I remember watching them all come in, and they were sitting in the back of a pickup truck, all in civilian clothes, dressed to the nines. All my CSTs know. Watching them roll in was always a good experience before they threw on their uniforms. They had one sitting up really high in the back of the seat, and I remember I turned to her and I said, hey, what are you doing up there? And she was watching for them to put magnetic IEDs on the truck, just as they were coming to work every day. So I had seen that courage, and I had seen that bravery on the battlefield. And it was that moment that it really hit me that for them, every day was a mission. Every day just getting to work took courage and bravery, and they had actively people trying to target and kill them just for going to work. And that, to me, sticks out as a moment that really solidified my love and trust for them, but really stuck with me as a moment of courage and seeing what women can do when they're placed in those positions.
For me, I have participated to a lot of missions in Afghanistan, so I have a lot of story. But one thing that is really hurts my heart, I remember that it was 2013, I was in Helmand, and with one of the FTPs that are here, her name is Jovide. We were in Helmand, and when we started going to inside the house, there was a girl, like about 13, 14 years old, and she was staring at me, and her name was Anargo, and she asked me that, are you a female? I said that yes. And it was her first time that she saw a female with helmet, with kit, with weapon and everything. And maybe for somebody it's a little bit funny, but if we think a little bit deep, we understand, like in 2013, we have the presence of foreign forces, US military. Like at that time we had like a lot of provinces that female doesn't have right to educate, they don't have right even to know about themselves. And so like just imagine now Taliban are in Afghanistan and they control of the country. What happened for them? Like they need the world, they need us and they need you and they need the world to stand with them to have a better life.
The audio folks. So I'm going to share my story because I think it's going to be a perfect key-in for Pashtana, who's got an incredible story. So there I was, patrolling through a village in southern Afghanistan with my partner, at the time Specialist Barbara Kaiser. She's on her way here, miss her. Our medic, our female medic, and our female interpreter. And this was a very conservative village. And by conservative, I mean women weren't afforded, many of maybe the rights that perhaps other Afghan women had in the cities or like a major metropolis. So we were patrolling, and there was this little girl. She was maybe 4 or 5 years old. She comes like running towards us, and she's covered in burns, like in wounds, and they were festering and gross, right? But they were pussing, all kinds of stuff. She was whimpering, she was crying, and long story short, when we talked to her grandfather, who was an elder, about why he let her run around the village, because everybody ignored her. He said that it's because she was caught trying to learn how to read the Quran. And her brother caught her and covered her in gasoline and lit her on fire, and they put her out like a dog, because that's where she belonged. And we treated her, we took care of her, but this is where I started to really come to terms with the challenges of like my mission, which was the village stability mission. We were taught, and many of my CSTs can echo this, like you're not there to be feminists, freedom fighters, wave a flag, and free the women of Afghanistan. You suppress your emotions, your job is the mission. And absolutely, super fair, right? But that was the first time that I saw gender-based violence, which was a significant issue. And I felt really helpless in that moment because I did have a job to do. What do I do? We're gonna treat her and we're gonna put her back, but what's gonna happen to her when we leave? And it's why so many of us have become committed to fighting this fight beyond the lens of warfare, military warfare. This more holistic approach to women, peace, and security. And that's why I wanted to speak before Pashtana, because while we all represent a military perspective, Pashtana, you have been a warrior fighting a significantly more complex fight since you returned to Afghanistan. So, Pashtana, what inspired you to be an education activist, and what inspired you to educate girls like the girl I encountered?
For starters, I became a warrior way more later in my encounters in Afghanistan. Before that, I was Delhi's princess, just so you guys know. So I was there in Afghanistan the first time. I was supposed to go for my test to the American University. And in the night, my sister is begging me so much. And I promised her that after the test, we are gonna watch a good comedy movie. I go to the test, we come out. She's still begging me to watch something because the house we are in Kandahar is barely lit. There's barely any electricity, and this is like the fanciest house there. So I come out, we go back home. I show her Scarface, and I tell her until the chainsaw comes out, she thinks it's a comedy, but it's not. And after that, after traumatizing her, I get into the university. My family is happy, my father is so proud, I'm still the spoiled kid. I go around, I meet my family members. My sister, who's begging me still, wants to meet her extended family. We meet all these other people, and I'm supposed to go to Kabul. I'm supposed to be on this flight, and I'm supposed to meet the ex-President Karzai, and I'm preparing for it. And we are in Spinboldak, a border district. And my cousin Durdana, she comes and she looks at me, and girls in village are shy. So she looks at me and she goes back, she looks at me and she goes back. And in the end, she comes to me and she tells me, can you teach me to be like you? And at that point, I just thought to myself, the 16-year-old me in me was like, what is there for her to be like me? Like, you know, I'm just a kid, a spoiled kid. And she tells me, she's like, I just want to be like you so I can pick up my bag, leave for Kabul whenever I want, get to fly, and do what you do, study. And that's where it hit me, that even if when we were trying to get education, there was part of my family members, my own family, who didn't have that access, who didn't have that opportunity. So while I was on the track to become a diplomat someday in my life, I thought, yeah, no, this is my mission, this is where I'm gonna stick, and this is where I'm gonna start. We started with Durdana. We educated her in Spin Buldak for 1 year. A lot of fights happened between that time where we had to bring her to Kandahar city. We enrolled her. We made sure that we start this program, Learn, for every girl who is in the tribal rural regions. I come from Maruf Salisun, one of the remote regions in Afghanistan, where the network goes down at 6 p.m. and that's it. And it comes the next day at 9 a.m. So there I was, all that was happening. And then a few years later, a CST texts me a very cool message from on Instagram, and she's like, hey, you do amazing stuff. Can we help you out? And lo and behold, today we are educating 400 girls in 4 different regions of Afghanistan, despite whatever the challenges are, and they are all, mind you, on secondary level, which the Taliban have banned right now. So for me, I think being a civilian, the only connection was that, yes, they didn't only feel that connection with the women in military in Afghanistan. They felt for the people of Afghanistan. They loved the country, especially the people who needed that opportunity, especially the young girls. So that's my connection to you guys.
Amazing, as always, right? So, yes, thank you, Pashtana. Yes, please, thank you. All right, so these are some incredible stories, and not just one of many, with the panel, with everybody out there. So let's rewind a little bit before said experiences, and I think George and Mary, I'm really interested in what you have to say. What inspired you to raise your right hand and take on this challenge of serving in this incredibly challenging roles? So Mary, you know what, you're gonna start this time, not George.
Ladies first, I like George.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up overseas. I grew up in China, and I saw just a completely different way of life. I saw, communism firsthand, and I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to join the military. I think for Halloween, I dressed up as a soldier, much to my parents' delight, and was always set that way. I don't think they believed me, and lo and behold, here I am. But I remember in basic training, I went into the female latrine, and on the door was a picture, and it said, join the cultural support team. And I didn't know what it was. I think it was early 2011, maybe 2010. I shouldn't do math in public. And I knew that was something that I really wanted to do. And then I was fortunate enough, a lot of the women in this room that came before me to meet several CSTs coming back who told me their stories. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to place myself in positions of greater responsibility. I knew that I wanted to be outside the wire in a combat environment, and that wasn't something that was readily, there were plenty of women that were in combat, but there wasn't something readily available to us. So that's what inspired me to join CST, was seeing my sisters in arms that had already served and paved the way.
But my coming in the military was strictly transactional for me. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't grow up in the greatest conditions, and I didn't have money for college. So that's the whole reason I joined in the first place, was to get some money for college. I'm going to date myself here, but after I was in for my first year, the first Gulf War broke out, and we deployed over there. And so I had to ask myself, okay, I'm going to go to this place, and I might get killed. Why am I doing this? Right? So it's great that you joined for the college money, but it led to some introspection and the studying of bear true allegiance to the Constitution and defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What did that mean? Why am I doing this? Why am I laying my life out there? And so it led to patriotism, which was the reason for staying. And then it wasn't really, the regular Army and I weren't seeing eye to eye. So in order for me to stay, I had to go to SOF, where I had a little more, could be myself a little more. So my reason for raising my right hand was very transactional. My reason for staying was more patriotic.
Thank you. And George, we love when you're yourself in small doses. All right, so Mary, you alluded to this in your comments, but just for some context for the audience. So at the time, the initial start of the CST program back in 2010, 2011, the direct combat exclusion rule was in place, meaning that women could not serve in capacities where they were engaged in direct combat. And like Jess, you mentioned in your opening comments, women found, because women will always find a way, women found ways to engage in direct combat, but they did not have policy standing behind them. And so the initial start of the CST program, was an effort to have some metrics to change said policy. With that said, and I think I want to ask Manaz if you could kick us off for this one, please, and Mary, I'm going to put you in the seat, and Kat, if you want to throw your 2 cents in here. Knowing that women were still largely denied access to formally be part of many of these direct combat teams, how did you integrate yourself or fit in with these all-male elite teams? Ms. Manaz, please.
I think for me it was just doing my job. This question for me is like, for example, somebody asked from George that how did it was like interact with the female elite in the military. But for some females, I think it helped them to improve their ability to work alongside the men. That is my answer.
Ms. Mary.
For me, it started in the gym, as I think it did for a lot of CSTs. Just showing up every day, working out alongside the guys, not looking for extra attention, not looking for anything, just showing that I could show up and do that job every day, showing that I had the strength needed to go out there and not only keep up, but do my job. And I think Manaz really said it best, that you show up and be yourself, and you find your truest self and how that fits to the team. That doesn't mean trying to be one of the guys in the sense that you want to merge and act exactly like them. There's unique strengths and characteristics that women bring to the fight. So it's finding those things about yourself and really highlighting them, and then showing, meeting them, where the metal meets the road, and just, or rubber meets the road is probably the right way to say that, but for this it was, lifting metal, and just showing that, we were there, we meant business, and we had a job to do.
For me, I went to CST, I was already at E8. I knew going in, this is going to damage my career. I will not see Star Major. Didn't care, because I knew there was a bigger piece to the puzzle going on. It was bigger than just myself. And the day I showed up to the outpost, the platoon sergeant, who I clearly outranked, he said, hey, I need to talk to you. And he said, we pulled up your ERB, we saw you're black, you're Baptist, and you're a female. We're gonna have any problems? I was like, this is your part of RSVP, what gift do you want me to bring? And we had 0 problems after that. My first mission did not go as planned at all. Our convoy was attacked, and I was told to squat and hold. You do exactly what you're told. Rank has no place there. You just do what you're told. I'm, again, at their party. But it got to be kind of kinetic, so they were like, get off, pull security. I was literally the last element. I was pulling the Ranger 6, locked eyes with my squad leader. He was not happy, but hey, I'll lay down my life for you just like I know you'll lay down your life for me. And from that, we gained a rapport, and like she said, I didn't try to be like them. I just showed up as my best self, and I showed up and performed the best that I could. And Jenny did the same thing, and Jenny was my CST partner, and she had this undeniable way of calming everybody. So when stuff was about to get chaotic or really messy, she would just say something funny, or she'd smile, or she'd say, hey, who's got Tapatio? like just the random things. And her comedy, her sense of humor led to her strength and what led us to be able to integrate seamlessly into our team. And I'm still best friends with the squad leader to this day.
That's amazing. And for those who don't know, she mentioned Jenny. So that's Captain Jenny Moreno, who was KIA October 6, 2013. And we celebrate her life today. All right, so thank you very much. I'm going to follow up a little bit. So, and CSTs out there, you can nod your head in agreement or not, right? This is all an exercise in what you can control and can't control. I think the enduring theme here is just do your job. That's what you can control, right? And despite your ability to do your job, there were varying levels of acceptance, and you all have your individual stories. But just like we were attempting with governance, with nation building, winning hearts and minds, you can't win hearts and minds with empty words and promises. It's through action, right? In the 3 C's of leadership: character, competence, commitment, right? That leads to capability, and our CSTs were extremely capable, and that's how we integrated, that's how we won trust. So let's look at the receiving end of these efforts. George. So we were, as CSTs, attempting to integrate onto the teams. How did you integrate CSTs and females onto your team?
So my CST was Jess, who's sitting right over there, and to me, I was very clinical about most things. I'm always clinical about things, but the Army saw fit to assign me a tool of war. It was Jess. Her job was to be the CST, so I used that tool of war, right? And when I showed up as a troop sergeant major, the way they had it was the CSTs stayed in this separate room, separate changing area, separate all that stuff, and then there's the kit room. And the thing about the kit room is it doesn't matter how much planning you do. When the guys are in the kit room getting their kit on, it's the last place you can talk to each other before the roar of the helicopters when you can't hear each other. So there's actually a lot of dialogue that goes in as we're putting our kit on and getting our guns ready and stuff that sometimes changes the plan, but everybody can hear it. And so I didn't see the purpose in having her, who's going to be on the battlefield with me, in some separate place and not hearing these plans. Who's going to communicate to them? So I told her, hey, get all your stuff. I opened up a kit bin next to me, and I said, put your stuff here. This is where you're going to be. And I explained to her why, right? My job isn't to protect you. My job is to enable you, right? And I want you in this kit room so that you can hear everybody else. You can show up with your full uniform on. You can change here. I don't really care because this is about the mission. And my instructions to her were to, come in here and get kitted up with us, learn the last bit of the plan, and, part of integration is you're part of the team. And I told her, if you don't perform, I will fire you. Like I would fire anybody else here. You can come back and tell me I'm firing you because you're a female. That's your prerogative. But the truth is I will fire you because you're not doing your job. And so when she got integrated, it was full integration because that's the only way that I saw fit to do it. I'm not going to have this separate thing that I have to go keep track of and do all these things. She did have her separate bathroom, and we followed those kind of rules. But to me, that's what integration is about, and it's always been about that. It doesn't matter what your gender or political creed or any of that stuff is. You're either part of the team or you're not. Fully integrated. When you get on the battlefield, the guy shooting at you is not going to ask you what your political persuasion, what your gender is. He's going to shoot you in the face and kill you. That's what's going to happen, right? And so you're either in the team or you're not, and that's how I viewed it.
And that's awesome. That is why he's sitting on the stage, because he's such a good ambassador for our program. George, you get it. So because you get it, I'm going to put you back in the hot seat. So you talked about, you integrated Jess, right? You integrated all of your teammates, male, female, didn't matter. And when we look at this idea of women, peace, and security, when we look at diversity, right? What's the acronym of the day? It's DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, right? Inclusion. So I would love for you to help kind of suss that out a little bit. What does inclusivity mean to you?
Well, I'm probably going to diverge a little bit from official policy, maybe, but I'm retired, so it is what it is. There's a lot of TY words out there: equity, inclusivity. There's a whole bunch of them. But anytime any of those words trump unity, you are off the rails, right? Because you need unity on the battlefield. That is what it is. And so you can run programs for all of those. What I believe is equal opportunity. And equal opportunity is a two-way street, right? Opportunity for somebody means that I prepare you for the opportunity, your unrealized potential. I put that in you. And then your part of the bargain is to turn unrealized potential into realized potential, or move along, right? And so that's how I've always viewed it. It's not, you know, I think we're making kind of a mess of things. It's actually pretty simple. It's equal opportunity, right? And a lot of people will fail because you'll give them equal opportunity, but you won't prepare them for that opportunity. And they will fall on their face, and you'll go, see, you fell on your face. Yeah, well, you're part and parcel responsibility for that because you didn't train them. So that's how I view equal opportunity, is you give opportunity, you train, you get the unrealized potential, but everyone out there owes their part of the bill, and that is to turn that into realized potential.
So we're going to flip it back from George to the CSTs, or obviously our lovely Afghan ladies. So coming off script a little bit. So George had some great thoughts on the idea of inclusivity. And y'all, there's a lot of nodding heads. There's a lot of agreement, maybe disagreement, but does anyone else want to give their thoughts on what does it mean to be inclusive?
Take that one. So for me, clearly, you know, I was the only African American or person of color in my CST rotation. And like he just said, don't deny me an opportunity, but when I'm given the opportunity, it's my responsibility to show up and perform and take advantage of the opportunity that's laid out in front of me. So don't deny somebody something just because of their gender, their race, their creed, or anything like that. But if you're going to open the door for me and I'm going to step into that door, I have a responsibility to take that serious and then to do my part as well, so we can all do it together, like he said, unity. I mean, I think it was Queen Latifah, UNITY, that's unity, the best song ever. And that really means something.
I did not expect to hear Queen Latifah today. I'm delighted, though. And I love it, right? And, you know, going back to George, your story about, you know, the kid and just do your job, right? No one cares if you're going to shoot you in your face. I think that's the subset of inclusion, right? So we include people. Think about like you playing on the playground, right? And you got your little brother or sister, and your mom's like, you better bring them along. And am I the only one with little siblings? Some people are nodding their heads, okay. You know, you do it begrudgingly. Fine. You know, and you put them kind of in the corner and like they're there, right? That counts, right? But there's that delineation between including someone and actually integrating them, right? Us as CSTs, like Jess could have just as easily been standing in the corner and waiting for something that's very specific to her before she was empowered, and George, you didn't do that. You included her, but you integrated her, and I think that's you know, I'm all about, you know, kind of breaking down words and definitions, and I think that's a little piece that's missing when we have these conversations of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You can put people in, you know, in a chair and have them at the table, but what are you doing as a leader, you know, to bring them into the team? What do you even know about that person? All right, and based on what you know, how is that going to make your team better? And it doesn't have to be like we're CSTs and we're women, and that's all we bring to the table. We all came from some pretty amazing backgrounds. I was a field artillery officer. I was like, hey, yeah, I'm a CST, but I can lay down some fires for you, right? You need me to ride the base plate and shoot a mortar? I'm gonna do that. I couldn't ride, for FA people out there, riding a base plate, you gotta be pretty heavy. I was little. I would have went flying. Yes. but yeah, and I think how you said it very well. The onus isn't just on the leader, it's on us as well. It was on us, right? And like I said before, there were varying levels of acceptance for different CSTs. So some of us had to fight a little bit harder, but it was a two-way street. This is what I can bring for you, and this is what I need you to do for me, right? That's that relationship. So like, Jess, back to your original comments, the fact that we're standing in the Military Women's Memorial, which we are so grateful for, we are standing in an incredibly powerful place that honors the women whose shoulders we stood on, you know, in this ascent for true inclusion, for true equity in the military and in the armed services, despite all the societal challenges that came from that. And the Cultural Support Team program was a catalytic influence in the 2013 decision for former Secretary of Defense Panetta to lift that combat ban that I talked about that excluded us from direct combat. However, and Mary, I'm going to key you up here, you know, with the withdrawal from Afghanistan last year, the CST program has ended. So, Mary, as a former program manager of the Cultural Support Program, what was the impact of the CSTs?
Good question. I think that the impact's been huge. I think the impact is opportunity. You see, as Kim mentioned, there's now opportunities for women in infantry. We've got, women. The first woman who went to Ranger School in the room. We've got women from special mission units that are here. We've got former CSTs, former CST program managers that have all paved the way for us to be here today. And as CSTs, we don't take that lightly. We're oftentimes kind of put as the face of females in the military, and you'll see a lot of news stories that tie any female achievement to the CST program, but we certainly want to recognize that there are women that have come from all over, from the intelligence community, from just about any unit that you can think of, that have paved the way for us to be here. But I think that the impact, or the one that I hope that we'll have left, is opportunity. There's chances for women to stand up and try for any job out there. And like George said, you have to do the work. You have to have someone there to train you, and you have to take that potential that they're giving you, take it and run with it. And I hope today that what everyone leaves with is that motivation to take what you're given and run with it.
So Mary just charged you all, right, with this task of, taking advantage of these opportunities for the foreseeable future. So Pashtana, I'm really interested, right, because you really, to us, you represent the future here, right? We served, we did all those cool things, there I was, stories, right? But your fight in this space continues, and it's a very hard fight. So from your perspective, and with all the work that you do, what does the future hold?
I mean, first of all, you made me sound so cool. The future holds that. I think in one sense we have, I don't know why my mic is doing that, but it is. Okay, so the future, I think for me is, I don't think your mission has ended here. It just ended in that phase for you. It has evolved to a next phase, where now you are working with CSTs from Afghanistan. You're also making sure that back home, what we do, what we believe in, the education, the programs, and the cycle that we started 2 decades ago, which was stopped for 2 decades, 80s and the 90s, continues. So I think for me, the future holds educated Afghan women. Yes, there are challenges, but my girls show up to school. That's important for me. 400 girls show up to a school in a country where education, secondary education right now is banned. That's important for you to understand. They won't have any opportunity to jobs, to anything else, to travel, to be their own selves, even to have an identity on their passport. But they are still showing up because they believe in the future. So if they are doing and holding their end of the bargain, we're gonna hold our end of the bargain. And I think for you, for this mission, and in general for Afghanistan and Afghan women, things have got harder, yes, but we persist, not because it's the need, but because that's the hope for future. That's the only thing I can think of right now. So yeah.
So I'm gonna put on a t-shirt and I'm gonna sell it after this event. I'll send you all the link. We persist. I love that phrase, right? Because I think that really is the motto for not just the CST program, not just for Learn, but for the women who we memorialize here today in this very space. We persist. Those women persisted through policy restrictions, right? We persisted through some policy restrictions, some just social dynamics within a team, through also, by the way, we were also fighting a war against Taliban, so that seems pretty hard. And we will continue to persist, and we will continue to rise to the occasion. And now I'm ready to go run the Army 10-miler because I feel inspired. So like I said, I'll sell this t-shirt, $14.99. All right, so with that said, Mary, you already charged us a little bit of what you want the audience to do, right? Take advantage of opportunities. Pashtana, we are going, we're going to persist, yes. But but I'm gonna put everyone back in the hot seat. And George, you're gonna help us out here. We need more nuggets of wisdom before we walk away today. And for the entire group, what would you like the audience to be charged with? What do you want us to walk away with today, based on everything we've talked about?
So I'll break that into two parts, one a little golden nugget and one I'll charge the audience with something. My bag of gold story, which I told every new guy ever came to my team. You know, you are now in one of the most elite units in the world. You're holding a bag of gold. It is $1 million worth of gold, right? I guarantee you, as sure as I'm sitting in this seat, in 6 months, you're going to come complain to me that that bag is heavy, right? Some of you are actually going to put the bag down because you're tired of carrying it. Think about that for a minute. You have $1 million worth of gold in a bag. You're set for life. And in 6 months, you're going to complain about it, right? And it's people lose focus, right? They're not focusing on the fact that they have $1 million worth of gold. They focus on the fact that it's heavy, and I'm tired of carrying it, right? And so I tell people, quit focusing on the wrong thing, right? You shouldn't be complaining. We can get you a unit appreciation tour down in the 82nd for a little while, and you come back and realize how much you love this bag of gold. But it's the focus that you have in your head, right? Don't focus on the fact that the bag of gold is heavy. Focus on the fact that it's a bag of gold and that you have a unique opportunity, right? And that's just human nature. People will start complaining about whatever because it's always too good. What I would charge you with is, you know, something that I've said before is that you're not going to be great because people were great, right? They were great people. That's their story. I walked my long, dusty road. It's your turn to walk your dusty road, right? I stood on the shoulders of some great people, but I wasn't great because they were great. I was only great, not that I'm saying I was great, but I had to make myself great. I had to earn my own keep, right? And so especially if you're women, there's all kinds of women in that hallway out there and whose shoulders you are standing on, but that doesn't make you great. So what will you do to make yourself great, to make yourself be the person whose shoulders somebody else will stand on, right? What is your story that you're going to write? What dusty road are you going to walk down? So that 20 years from now, who's going to say, I want to stand on her shoulders and take this a little farther?
George, you're great. Kat.
So I would say one of the big takeaways, or one of the things I would like to charge you with is, Mahatma Gandhi said it best. He said, you can shake up the world in a gentle way. CSTs, we did that because we weren't in the forefront. We weren't splashed across the TV all the time. We were the quiet leaders behind the scenes doing great things. But to that, when the opportunity is presented to you, you have to step through those doors. There's a lot of things that's going on in different areas of the world, and you're standing back complaining, and we're saying, oh, this is not right. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do that. But what are you doing to change that? So you need to step up in a gentle way and make some noise to change it. And we just can't sit back and complain all the time. And when you see something that's not right, do something to make it right. Because one person can't change anything, but one person can absolutely make a difference. So what difference are you making in your world or the world as a whole?
I'll kind of echo Kat on that, and also draw something from what Pashtana said, particularly to my cultural support team and female tactical platoon sisters out there. I think our mission's not over yet. I think you said that really well. I think we still have a lot of potential. Everybody in this room, no matter what your tie to this community is, the mission's not over yet. There's still, it's kind of a dark, scary world out there, and I think everyone's feeling that weight on their shoulders. And I think Jess Yan did a great job capturing the sentiment out of many one, pluribus unum. I'm going to say that really badly because I'm not a Latin speaker, but out of many one. And I think it's easy to get polarized. You see politics today, and people are so far on either side in the world. And I think it's important to keep that mission moving forward and keep talking to people that don't think the same way that you do, that didn't come from the same background that you do, that have completely different ideas than you do, and keep putting yourself in those positions of higher responsibility, and keep being a leader and a light in that dark world out there.
In Afghanistan, my people, they are starving. A lot of families they sell their children to rescue the other family. The Taliban are killing people by the name of their ethnicities, their religions, and the genocide of Hazaras people and Panjshiris people are happening in Afghanistan. There is no human right, female right in Afghanistan. There is nothing in Afghanistan. Our country, our people were promised to freedom, to democracy, to human right, to female right. But now there is anything to my country. I choose to serve my country. My FTPs that are here, they choose serve their countries. My male colleagues, they choose to serve their countries, my countries. And my Americans colleagues, they choose to serve my countries, their countries, and the world. And I think we need to continue our missions. We need to continue. We need to find a way maybe more stronger than the past to stand with them, to fight for democracy, to fight for freedom, to fight for female rights and human rights. And I think our missions is not finished.
Good luck, Ashtana.
It's always so nice to be around Mahnaz. She has a very calming energy, and I need that in my life because I am a bunny. Like always going up and down. So thank you, Mahnaz, for that. Yes, we need all of that. At the same time, I just want to highlight one thing. You know, when you see an Afghan woman on TV, she's always in a blue burqa, bogra, the way we call it in Kandahar, and all you see is a victim. All you see is, oh, that poor Afghan woman. One thing I can assure you of is like hundreds of years ago, we had women fighters. Malalai Maiwandi, we had rulers, Gawhar Shad Begum, we had women who were actually leading the whole country like Aisha Durrani. Now the reason why am I educating on female literature in Afghanistan is to tell you, Afghan women are not victims. Afghan women are fighters. They are standing up for their rights. They are asking questions. If you follow Afghan news right now, they are persisting. They are showing up. Young teenage girls are showing up for asking for their right. Women are showing up for their right. Now the question is, are you standing with them to fight with them, not for them? Because they are leading the fight. So for me, every person here, I want them to walk with this one thing. What would be their one commitment to women like us? How would they make sure that that one time that they pay that all that taxpayers' money, how to make sure that that's sustained, and at the end of the day, women's rights were not just a thing to ensure that, oh, we were there and we went out, persists, women persist, education persists, and the right to educate, the right to vote persists, the right to represent persists. So I think for me, the most important thing is the right to access all those.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn to try to match some of these incredible statements. So good luck to me. I really want to speak to the leaders, and all of you should be a leader, right? But the leaders in the group out there virtually here in the audience. We've talked a lot about, inclusivity, integration. Like I said, I'm a wordsmith. I want to go back to that. This idea of inclusion, or let's go back, opportunity. Mary, you mentioned opportunity. Opportunity, to me, is opening the door. Right? And inclusion is you, as a leader, motioning someone to walk through that door. Right? And then integration is genuinely welcoming someone to the table, sitting them down and going, welcome to your home. This is your home now. It shouldn't be on a burden for the receiving end, whether it's a subordinate, an employee, a team member, to have to prove themselves all the time. Like I said before, this is a two-way relationship. It's also leaders. It's your charge to have those skills to learn how to connect with people, to know what unique value they bring to the team, and challenge them with the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Give them the chance to prove themselves. CSTs, we were uniquely trained to connect with people, to understand that human element of war and how that affects the military fight, the war, and how to enable effective teams through our unique skills and our perspectives. From our basic branches, our actual roles in the Army, to a female perspective, for some of us, the only female perspective that some of those operators saw. So my questions to all of you, rhetorical, I'm not gonna pass the mic around, right? But my question to all of you is, how well do you understand the people that you work with and who works with you and for you? Have you pigeonholed people into boxes based on your worldview, your expectations, your individual perspectives, based on duty descriptions? Because if that's the case, you've probably packed your team into a box, and maybe it's super efficient, but maybe that team would be better to fit into a warehouse. So let's wrap this up, because I want to get into some questions here. And I promise I'm going to keep talking. You chime in whenever you want. Just kind of tug at me and go, hey. Back to integration. Integration is a piece of it, but it's not women, peace, and security. This is our first women, peace, and security panel, and I want to end with what we interpret women, peace, and security to be. Integration is not WPS. It's only one of the 4 lines of effort in our women, peace, and security strategy, participation. So it's 1 of 4, it's 25%. I like to do math in public. So it's not enough to integrate people, and to include and integrate people. It's not gonna win us wars, it's not gonna create everlasting peace. And General H.R. McMaster, he wrote, Once Upon a Time, The Continuities and Fallacies of War, and one of the continuities of war, a critical element, he said, is that war is human. And if that's the case, we need to continue to consider, in this rapidly modernizing and technological world, the human considerations of war, because 50% of the world's population is women. And we see it right now. You brought it up in Afghanistan. Women are fighting. We see that now in the news with women in Iran, right? The impact, the great impact women can have on their society and their government, how they can change the world. So how do we consider, address, and empower that human aspect? It doesn't have to be war, right? It could be in your workplaces, wherever you come from, your own foxholes, for the good of peace, security, mission success, whatever you do, right? And you can add to this list, right? It's education, right? It's economic empowerment, it's leadership, it's partnerships, right? Under this umbrella of opportunity, equal opportunity, as George, you said so well. And that's women, peace, and security. And that's what the CSTs have fought for, that's what our FTPs have fought for, that's what, Marshana, you fight for, we all fight for, and we will always fight for, whether it's on the battlefield, our workplaces, in our communities. And we will persist. T-shirt, right? Going on sale in a month, all right. With that said, that concludes the formal portion of our panel. Let's please give a round of applause to our panelists. I know, I'm pretty juiced up. I'm psyched and really inspired. So we've got about 15, 20 minutes for questions. So if you've got any, or comments, if you've got anything you'd like to ask any of the panelists, please just raise your hand, and we didn't talk about how we're gonna get you to ask that question, but I'll just run to you, I guess, with the mic, or audio people, you stop me if I'm out of control. Opening up the floor to anyone who wants to ask anything or say anything. Yes. All right, if this squeaks, I'm so sorry. All right, there we go.
Hello, it's really nice to hear all your stories. You are all amazing, and everyone else here who's been a part of the program in some way, shape, or form. I'm a student at Boston University. I'm actually in the Air National Guard in Massachusetts. And one big question that I have for you guys, since you have a boatload of experience, what message do you have for young people who are in the military or thinking of joining the military?
I vote her.
Give it to Roll Tide.
Aha.
Yeah, this is a non-commissioned officer question.
So you said for those who are already in the military, and then for those who are thinking about coming into the military. I'll start with for those who are already in the military. Whatever your reason for being in the military, I will say this: if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So you can sit in your comfort zone all day long saying, I'm not having this opportunity, and why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? Well, if you're not challenging yourself, then you're not going to change yourself. So I would say that for those who are currently in. For those who are thinking about coming in, regardless of the reason for that, because I'm a second-generation American, I came in because I was selling drugs. I owned my truth. I wanted to go to college. There's only two ways out of selling drugs, either death or jail. None of those were appealing to me, so I decided to join the military. As soon as I got in, I said, this is my jam. I found my tribe. These are my people. So I learned something from being in the military and from being around a large, diverse group of people. I learned how different cultures live. I learned how different people live in different parts of the United States. So I grew. So if you're thinking about coming into the military, I think that's a great stepping stone for you to grow into your own self, and you'll be a better human being, because every single person in this room, we should absolutely leave the world better than which we inherited. And if we're not thinking about that every single day, what can I do to better improve this world? I don't know what you're thinking about.
I'm thinking about making a T-shirt, but yeah, I'll say we'll share proceeds. It'll go to learn. Okay. Does anyone else want to take a stab?
I would say, especially to younger soldiers, we had the opportunity to speak to an ROTC class recently, and a big theme of it was, finding your mentors, finding those people that make a lasting impact on you, and continuing to build that network and figure out where you fit in or where your passions lay. I keep messing up how people say things today, but I'm going to try it. They say, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So keep finding those mentors and people around you. Like George said, the conventional Army didn't work out for him, and he knew he needed to go over to SOF, and I would imagine that George had some mentors along the way, or someone to keep him in line. We all know he needs that. So find for me, that's been a big theme in the last year is really finding mentors and people that are pushing me to be better and to find who I really am and what I believe in, and that's made all the difference for me. So I would encourage young soldiers or people thinking about joining the military that you're going to be brought into a family, and it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah. And to that point, don't wait for a mentor to come to you. Lieutenant me waited, and nobody came to me. I was the only woman in my unit. I was a field artillery officer. There was a lot of feelings about my presence as a combat arms officer, and I did not really get my first true mentor until my second battery command. And that was about almost 10 years into my service. Because I didn't know to ask. And there's an expectation that leaders will mentor, but not always the case, and that was my case. So if you don't have a mentor, find one. If you can't find one, I'm sure any one of us, right? And you can hook up with AllTru, right? We'll talk to you. We'll give you the skinny. And if you're in the Air Force, we'll write on Department of the Air Force. I got you, sister. And the last thing I'll leave you with, right? Back to the idea of what you can control and not control. And yeah, I know we can put this on a pillow. It's something that we hear all the time: character, competence, commitment. I've already said it once. Those are the things you can control. Right? You can't control how people feel about you. Right? I couldn't control how people felt about me in my military career. I could control how good I was at my job. I was darn good. I'm sorry, I will say I'm great. I was darn good. Right? Nobody could question my love for my soldiers and how committed I was to the mission. Right? And I would like to think, right, that I upheld the best of my character. Right? I was true to myself. I was true to my soldiers. And I did the right thing, even when no one was looking. Another embroidery pillow thing. So character, competence, commitment may seem cliche, but those are what you can control. And if people have a problem with it, that sounds like a whole lot of their problem, not your problem. Spend that time doing something more productive, right? Like making a T-shirt. Any other questions? All right, coming to you.
I think we'd like to hear one of your funniest mission stories from each of you. And George, I also heard that Jess fell out of a helicopter. So,
Yes. Funny mission story. But to answer her question, and then I'll get to the mission story, because the mission story is pretty quick. But you know, what I would tell the military in general and young people is the military is not meeting recruitment, and it should probably ask itself why, right? And you can say that 90% of the people aren't qualified and yada yada yada. You could say that, but in a downturn economy, they've always been shutting the doors at 3 because they've got too many people lined up, right? And so, but it's a bigger segue to what's going on in the world, which is we're polarizing ourselves, right? And the nation is a very fragile thing, right? Get out of your bubble, right? We have a lot more in common than you would think. You probably like either puppies or cats, right? You probably like cheeseburgers or Cokes, right? Guess who else likes them, right? But you got to get outside of your bubble. I've been in you know, not to dote on myself, but I counted it up one time, and it came out to 33, 34 countries that I've either lived in, served in, fought in, or been to visiting, right? And there's no country greater than this, right? It's easy to sit in New York and say, you know, yada, 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 based on your worldview, which is the 9 square blocks of New York that you live in. And you're trying to ascertain what the guy in Montana thinks. I'll clue you in, he doesn't think one iota like you do in your little block, right? So, you know, what I would say to young people is unity. I said it before, it's the most important thing, right? If you don't start concentrating on unity and coming together, we are going to take this country off of the rails. And it's already happening. The military can't get its quotas, right? You should ask yourself why that is happening. Why do people not want to join the military? And they're putting out some great bonuses, right? College opportunities, lots of things going on, and can't make it happen. So the problem is deeper than just recruitment. It's societal, right? And so how do we come together? How do we stop this, right? How do you not look at me and say, you know, you voted for Trump, or you voted for Biden, or you did this, or you did that, and therefore I blanket hate you, right? It can't be. So that's my, what I would say to young people today is, if you're going to focus on something, focus on how do I love my neighbor? How do I get together with people? I ain't got to love everything you love, right? The United States, you know, freedom is what I believe in. I fought for everybody's freedom, and I don't care what you do with your freedom. I don't care what gender you are, what politics you are. You know, I fought for freedom, period, end sentence. You take your freedom and do what you will with it, right? But how do we come together? So if you tie all that together, there's a bigger problem happening that somebody, the younger generation, you want to know how to get people, you know, people are going to stand on your shoulders. The younger generations are the one that fixed this problem that the older generation is creating, which is the divisiveness of America. You can argue as to why it's happening, but it is happening. Funny story. There we were, coming in for a landing. Helo's flaring, dust is everywhere. We're after this guy that we've been after for a long time. It turned into a big firefight, but we're not, you know, we're going to get to the funny part first. We'll skip the rest of the story. But we come flaring in, and we know we're in for it right off the bat. And so everybody's tension's up. You know, we're going to get out there and get it going. So we start piling off this helicopter. And Jess busts her butt, falls right off the ramp into a ditch, because we had landed in like a wheat field kind of thing. So there was all these ruts. And the way the Hilo landed, the ruts were this way. So she falls down in this rut. Oh, well, you know, I thought she got shot from where I was. I'm like, damn it. But everybody else just stepped on her and used her as a stepping stool to not fall in the same ditch. And so she gets about 20 people jump on her, and then I jump off the helicopter and I pick her up by her equipment, shake her off. Are you shot? No? Okay, I ain't got time for your silly stuff. Get to where you're supposed to be, and then I took off running. So on one of her first missions, which is a pretty good whopper of a firefight, she busted her butt off the helicopter.
Okay, she'll do it later. I'll let you know. Does anyone else want to have a funny, humorous, slightly interesting story?
Share one with the lovely Manaz here and some of the other FTPs that are in the audience. We were in a particularly nasty valley, the Tangi Valley in Afghanistan. Not the best place to to be in, and we were getting ready to go out, and Manaz and her teammate walk up, and her teammate was really very, very cold already where we were, and we were going to even higher elevation, and her buddy comes out wearing a coat with a fur hood. Just had her kit on, was like, ready to go. These guys are some of the fiercest fighters you'll meet, but had this fur coat with a fur hood on, up, ready to go. And we were still fighting for better equipment for them. They weren't given the right size boots. They weren't given really anything good. They weren't given cold weather stuff, so it made sense why she showed up in said fur coat. But I'm not the biggest fashionista, for those of you that know me, but I was impressed. Here she was, ready to go. So we take off and we start going, and we land, and it was a long, long walk, and I keep turning around, and she's still got her fur coat on, she's still got the fur up, and she's ready to go. And then she's out here in the audience today. And then we start going, and it was like you were talking about, where it was a steep climb, and we started hearing over the radio that they were setting up different fighting positions, and things were going to get nasty. And I hear these laughs behind me, and I know they're hearing the same thing over the radio that I was hearing. And then there's kind of almost like glacier thing that we had to go down, and like Jess, I busted. Tumbled down it rather ungracefully, not known for my gracefulness. And I turn around, and these two are having the time of their life, sliding down together, just, smiling and laughing. And I turned to them, and I was like, guys, you hear what's going on the radio? And Manaz looks at me, and she goes, here's Afghanistan, Mary, everywhere is dangerous. And just ready to keep going on. So I say that laughing, but also as a way to recognize how brave these ladies are, how much they made do with little to the nothing that they were given, and then how they were able to make light of or to thrive. And literally, I'm sitting there getting ready for something, and they're, here is Afghanistan, everywhere is dangerous. What happens, happens, and that was always a constant theme from these guys.
I have one funny story about Jenny. So we're in our platoon talk. We're gearing up to go out. I'm on the manifest to go out, but Jenny liked when we both went out together. So she was like, hey, because Jenny, that's who she was. Can I go too? Literally, can I go to we're going to a grocery store. And I lied to you not. The platoon sergeant looks at her and says, it's going to get kinetic. If you can tell me what GTL stands for, I'll let you go. Silence. It gets quiet. Then he's like, Gym Tan Laundry? He's like, no, not Gym Tan Laundry. She's like, you're not a Jersey Shore fan? Master Sergeant, get your lieutenant, get out of the office. She's like, Kat, what's wrong? That wasn't the right answer? No, it was not, and we're both not going now. And we didn't.
I still think it's Gym Tan Laundry. I was with a SEAL team, and that's what I remember GTL meaning. And Tiffany, tell me if I'm wrong. But okay, so we are out of time, but we will, we're going to be hanging out, and we are more than welcome to, open to answering more questions, just talking to you. But we are very grateful to be part of this panel. And Manaz, you got something? Manaz got something to say. All right.
I promised myself that when I see some Americans, I'm going to tell something to them. When I grew up in Iran for many years, and also I was in Afghanistan, my country, and I heard a lot in those countries, Afghanistan and Iran, that Americans are not culturally friendly. And but I had some Americans colleagues with myself in Afghanistan, and I thought with myself that no, they are fine. Maybe like in America, like the other people, they are not friendly with other immigration or Afghans, Ukraine, I don't know, whatever. But when I came to the United States, when I saw the people of United States, when I worked with an organization that is called Immigrant Arc, which I work with them, and I saw them that how they are willing to help to Afghans, to other immigration, and also other Americans that are trying to help to Afghans, I become so happy, and I thought that maybe everything that you hear, maybe they are not true. And I just wanted to say and appreciate and tell you guys that I really appreciate you guys that always help and support us. But I'm going to say that please stand with Afghans in Afghanistan. They need your help. They need you to stand to raise their voice. Thank you.
I have to try to follow Manaz again, so good luck to me. Like I said, ma'am, thank you so much for allowing us to help kick off the WPS, this WPS series at the Women's Military Memorial. Thank you for allowing us and spending your time with us to tell our stories. And the last thing I want to do before we disband, I lied, and I'm going to put you back on the spot, CSTs and FTPs, if you could please stand. Please stand up so we can recognize you all a little bit more formally. Thank you for allowing us to represent all of you and to tell your stories. Yes. So we hope that we represented the CST story and we did it justice. And I'm going to turn it back over to Phyllis. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad she just had you guys stand because I was going to do the same thing. I cannot believe how many of you are here in the room, so thank you for that. So let me get my notes out quickly. We're nearly done, I know. So I would now ask Major General Schmidt and Major General Edmonds and Manaz to please stand and join me here on the stage. And I think I need also Mary Kolars to join us. This is an official one. I'm going to read it as it's written. On behalf of the Military Women's Memorial, we'd like to take a moment now to honor the service and sacrifice of the members, this always gets me, of the Female Tactical Platoons, commonly referred to as FTPs. The FTPs began their courageous service in 2011. They stood up alongside the United States Special Operations Command Cultural Support Teams, or CSTs. The FTPs conducted hundreds of combat raids, hunting high-value targets and known enemies of both Afghanistan and the United States. On August 15, 2021, as Kabul began to fall, the Taliban immediately began looking for the members of the FTP. The Taliban recognized that the FTPs stood for everything that they are against. They stand for freedom, for minorities, for education, for women, and for their own country. At this time, FTP Captain Manaz Akbari, former commander of the Female Tactical Platoon, will accept recognition on behalf of the Female Tactical Platoon. Jan is applying a Woman of Valor lapel pin. The Woman of Valor pin was designed with humble gratitude for the courageous women who have served or are currently serving. This statement piece is meant to resemble a forget-me-not flower and features purple petals to represent the combined military brand colors symbolizing joint and combined services. We hope you wear it proudly in remembrance and recognition of the heroic service of all of the FTP women. And lastly, Mr. Dave Rappaport, I know you're in the room, I believe. Dave is in the very back corner. Dave, please stand. The gentleman in the very back corner there is responsible for this incredible black and white portrait that we're bringing forward of Maji. This portrait symbolizes an amazing woman of the FTP that is no longer with us. So this portrait will be on display here alongside all the other Dave Rappaport portraits down the entire gallery to remind us of the enduring service, courage, and the legacy of the Afghanistan FTPs. Thank you. Additionally, we'd like to recognize the members of the cultural support team who stood alongside their sisters in arms and refused to quit. They persisted. Beginning in April of 2021, with the announcement of a full withdrawal, a group of 6 CST women began working tirelessly to submit every FTP for a special immigrant visa. As the danger continued to grow by the day, the number of CSTs assisting grew as well. During the evacuation, a team of CSTs stayed engaged 24 hours a day, ensuring safe routes and coordinating entrance to a chaotic airport. As a result, 40 FTPs were brought to the United States. At this time, will the members of the cultural support team who assisted with the evacuation please stand as Mary Kolars is being presented with a print signed by several of the former CST and FTP members, which will hang in the memorial, symbolizing the shared trailblazing service and unbreakable bond between these women. Are they in the room? You're out there, stand up. Stand up. We know you're there. Thank you. And we're asking that Major General Schmidt please step forward and pin a Woman of Valor lapel pin also onto Captain Kohler. So we're staying right on time. At this time, we'll close this portion of the afternoon, but we will be having a fireside chat with General Scott Miller, the last commanding general in Afghanistan. He'll be here doing a fireside with us at 4 p.m. So it's at 3:30 now. Take about 15 to 20 minutes. We do ask if you're going to be here for the fireside chat, please be back in your seats at 10 minutes to 4. 10 minutes to 4, please be back in. Thank you very much.